Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it.
Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by First Star Therapy. I'm your host, James Gardner, and this is a platform for the pros, by the pros. Passionate pros, organic dialogue. Let's chat. Thanks for listening. Let's roll.
All right, we're rolling here. Session 48, First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy round table with Tim Kontos here today, Virginia Commonwealth University. Before I get to his bio, just going to roll through some of the ground rules. For anybody listening in live, feel free to chat through the chat box, drop a message in there. I'll be happy to filter it over. Really appreciate everybody's time and being here live. Everybody picking this up on the podcast and YouTube channel. This thing's growing, it's spreading, and without a doubt, after this conversation today with one of the best in what he does, great human being, humble, modest, strong as can be, both mind and body. We'll get into a great conversation. I'm sure this is going to have broad-reaching scope. Our sponsor is Mobility Tape, the only heat-activated kinesiology tape on the market. And as always, these sessions are brought to you by First Star Therapy. I'm your host, James Gardner. And again, Tim Kontos, our guest. I'll jump into his bio here. Tim is a certified strength and conditioning specialist with the National Strength and Conditioning Association. He's in his 23rd year as a director of performance and student athlete wellness for VCU Athletics. In 2015, he was named as a master strength and conditioning coach by the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association, the highest honor given in the profession. His honors were further elevated by VCU after being named Associate AD for Sports Performance in July 2016, and then to Associate Athletics Director for Sports Performance and Student Athlete Wellness in September of 2018, where he supervises multiple departments, including sport performance, sport medicine, sports nutrition, and sports psychology. And I think there's a ton of overlap here, Tim. I can't wait to pick your brain on this stuff and hear how things are done there. Tons of resources and you as a resource. Tim designs, implements, and supervises all strength, speed, and agility programs for the Rams baseball and volleyball teams, two very successful programs. He's worked to develop a holistic approach to sports performance since his arrival at VCU in 1998. He's built a program that believes in educating athletes beyond the what and puts the emphasis on the why behind their program. Although each program is built around the needs of the sport, principles of nutrition, psychology, and recovery are common themes in addition to strength and conditioning. And Tim, I think this is where, before we jump into the conversation, I'll finish your bio, but there's so many parts of this. Like, this is where you and I connected, that holistic approach and really kind of looking at the why. And I think we could spend probably 3 hours here today, but we'll try and limit this thing. We'll try to limit this thing. Tim's a firm believer in leading by example. He's a competitive power lifter and recently squatted 600 pounds. I think some of that was in your dining room, if I'm not incorrect. And then some recent PBs as well. Over 600 pounds in December of 2015, placing him 7th on the all-time highest squat for his age and weight class. A 1997 graduate of Radford University, he spent 2 years as a strength and conditioning coach for the ice hockey team at his alma mater. We just call it hockey in Canada, where he supervised off-ice workouts for speed and strength training while also coordinating the team's nutrition program. He holds a bachelor's degree in physical education from Radford. He is a level 1 club coach through the United States Weightlifting Association, a level 1 coach through the United States Track and Field Association, and a functional movement screen practitioner. A lengthy bio, and it captures some of what you are, but definitely not all of who you are. Tim Kontos, man, I really appreciate you taking the time for being here today, building this into your schedule. I'll let you say hi, and then let's jump in.
James, I am super excited about being on this. When you and I had the chance to connect on Instagram and then start chatting and then got on the phone, I was like, this is something definitely I want to be part of. And so I'm honored to be part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, man, we appreciate it. This is the big integrative space of sports performance, and you house so many elements of that. Where did it all begin? I love starting at sort of the beginning, and then we'll go in a mishmash of directions, I'm sure, just based off of your story. But where did it all begin for you? And then if you want, just sort of dive into some of the passion points along the way that really lit it up for you as you've come to where you are now.
So I'm going to take you way back in the start, and kind of a lot of what I've done throughout the years has been evolved from what I don't want to do. And so when I was in middle school and high school, I got a job bagging groceries at a local grocery store in a pretty rural area here in Virginia. And I did not like doing what I did. I didn't like the people I worked for. I didn't like the people I worked with. And it was a tough situation all around, but it was something that I came to a very quick realization that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And you hear people going through the grind and they're like, man, it's just, they will live for the weekends, whatever. And I was like, that's not something I want to do. And then I was like, I don't know what I want to do at that point. And then fast forward to college, I started looking at different ideas, and I knew I really liked lifting weights. I liked the self-improvement. And then when people would ask me to help them with stuff, seeing that, that spark in their eyes when they would realize they could do something they didn't think they could do before, or a technique clicked or whatever, I was like, I would really love to be able to do something with this. But at the time there was very few, this is early 90s, very few areas that you could go into. And right. I wasn't even aware that strength and conditioning was a field. So you could be an athletic trainer. You could be a gym owner, a personal trainer, or a gym teacher. Mm-hmm. So I got out of college and I got a job as a personal trainer, and I enjoyed it because you do get that spark and you do get that gratification, but then very quickly it gets old because the people that you're working with in that arena oftentimes don't have the motivation. That's why they're coming to you. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, there's got to be more. And so I started passing my resume around to anybody who would take it. And it got into an orthopedic surgeon's hand here. So the university here at VCU, we are associated with the Medical College of Virginia, or Medical College of Virginia is part of VCU. And it got into an orthopedic surgeon's hand who had treated a lot of our student athletes, and was like, we need to start working on the preventative side. So they funded a position here. It was part-time, 20 hours a week. And I was told by my supervisor at the time, you can work more than 20 hours, but we're not going to pay you. And it very quickly caught on. Lots of people, coaches saw the benefit of it. And so after about a year and a half, I went to the administration and said, this is something that there's enough demand for it, that this really should be a full-time position. And what I really had to do was lean on the coaches. And that was something that I learned early on was very important to be able to do. Leaned on the coaches, they went to the administration, and it became a full-time position. So it started off as a part-time position. The weight room was 1,000 square feet in the basement of one of the worst buildings on campus, one of the older buildings on campus, a little dilapidated. It is now, they have demolished it. They demolished it during quarantine. I was actually sad that I didn't get to see that. Yeah. But now we're in the 7,000 square foot weight room. We've got 5 full-time strength and conditioning coaches, 2 graduate assistants, typically 4 interns per semester. And 2 years ago, they asked me to supervise the sports medicine department. And sports medicine at that point was over sports psychology as well as sport nutrition. And that was a pretty interesting endeavor. As you know, you being an athletic trainer by trade can understand that strength coaches and athletic trainers don't always get along. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that I and the staff here, both strength and conditioning as well as athletic trainers, are working towards getting rid of that stigma. But it was one of the things that they had to come to the realization that I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. I'm not a medical professional. Yep. I'm going to rely on you to be able to do your job. But what I can do is help put people in the right places to succeed.
Yeah, no, that's an area I think that, like, through this podcast and having different professionals on, athletic trainers in the US, athletic therapists here in Canada, strength and conditioning everywhere in the world, this integrative space, do you feel like there's what's the word, like barriers to entry to sort of cross over? Have there been in the past? And then what have you sort of found to be successful to break those down and unify the front? I mean, I know based on what you do in our conversations that we've had, the athlete-centric approach, like this human being who's in front of me matters a whole lot more than my ego.
Right.
What sort of, what have you done or what's been put in place as a staff there to make that a more cohesive unit in your time from where you started to where it is now?
It started years before I was, all of those departments were merged together.
Right.
One of our staff came from a university nearby, Jeff Collins. He's actually now the director of sports medicine here at VCU.
Yep.
He brought over the concept of the sports performance team, which is, it's that big umbrella and that everybody falls under it. And we're trying to work together to try and bring more things to the student athletes, more projects, to better the student athlete experience.
Yep.
And so I would say, just like you're saying, it's you're trying to put the ego to the side, number one, and know that I know what I know, but I don't know what they know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to rely on them for their experience and their personal and professional opinions on various matters. And hopefully we'll get that mutually respect back and forth.
Right. Nice. No, I think that's huge. And like, that's just like the humility of it all, right? Like you saying that there's definitely parts that you understand that what they're doing in their language, obviously. And, but understanding that I may not know, or I may not have the same perspective on a certain issue as somebody else, it becomes maybe a little bit more inviting for that collaborative approach. And I'm sure there are ups and downs. And like human interaction is a big thing, and like the relationships and the egos and all those things, we're going to headbutt and we're going to, there's going to be friction, but how do we put that aside to maintain that? I love that student experience. And we have, a few staffs in Canada, the universities here, the funding isn't quite the same. The structure is not the same in terms of athletics, but moving towards sort of a more collaborative approach. What's your team made up of now? So like under your umbrella, you say sports psych, sport nutrition, sports medicine, S&C. How many people, and like, what is that? I don't know. What are those interactions like? Maybe on a monthly basis, or reviewing a team, or however you want to sort of field that.
So we have 9 athletic trainers.
Yep.
All full time. So I oversee, in sports performance, I oversee all the sports except for men's basketball. That sport performance coach, who I've got a very good relationship with, but he reports directly to the men's basketball coach. Okay. So we have 4 full-time over here, plus Daniel Roos, the men's basketball strength coach. So that's 5. Then 2 graduate assistants, and as I said, 3 to 4 interns per semester on a rotating basis. It's spring semester, summer semester, and fall.
Yeah.
Then the sports performance team, typically under, we'll call them normal circumstances, pre-COVID, would meet once a month, talk about various things. It was through that group that we started instituting department-wide functional movement screen of everybody.
Love it.
And then trying to take that and move it to the next level to not only do the screen, but then work on correctives and what do we do with that information. We have some teams that do monitoring with Polar, GPS, but that's not across the board, but that is something that's a topic of conversation when we meet. Now, so each team has a sport performance coach. Myself, I work with 2 teams, and then I believe each coach has about 3 to 4 teams.
Okay.
Athletic trainers will work with maximum 2 teams.
Yep.
But their interaction is going to be daily. So I interact with the athletic trainers in my teams daily. They are typically at lifting and conditioning. They're always at conditioning, but they're typically at lifting as well. And then I don't have a whole lot of interaction with practices, but I will pop in on occasion and talk with them at that point. Okay. But it's daily interactions about injury reports, what happened at practice, what do we need to change, how can we get better, etc.
Yeah. And so you guys have a large number of teams, right? I think you have over 17 varsity teams. Yeah, 17 varsity teams, which is, that's a big bite to chew. And so dividing that up and then finding ways to find common ground. Have you used or utilized the FMS, like the functional movement screen, as sort of your universal language that everybody can speak? Or is it sort of more the S&C side and that's deliverables 2 ways, or how's that work?
No, it's universal.
Yeah,
across
nice.
the board.
Yeah.
And some teams will, and I wouldn't say it's specific to the sport performance coach, but it's going to be specific to the team, how much they do or don't use it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, I think that's important. And that's a critical part as sort of, we have a lot of students on here and, younger therapists just coming out, or people transitioning from one role to another, or potentially branching out through COVID, like to do their own thing. And I think that common language, whatever you so choose it to be, is so critical when you have multiple practitioners, so that some of the language is the same. And then the deliverables to that, again, that most important person in the room is the athlete in front of you, so that they're hearing one thing from you and that's being echoed clinically or, from those other angles. Is that a fair assessment of how things roll out there too?
For sure. Yeah. And that's, there will be some personal differences, but we do a very good job of putting those aside. And especially when it comes to the student athlete, to make sure that they're hearing, as you put it, a unified voice, as opposed to, an angel on one side and the devil on the other.
Yeah, no, nice. I think that's crucial. And it's amazing that it's happening at sort of the highest level. The NCAA institutions are sort of, we have a bit of an awe factor about them in Canada, just because our athletics is set up differently. The academic institutions are set up differently. And to have all those resources and manage all those teams and manage all those people, that's a huge task, right? And so you get to do all of that stuff. You get to do it. I feel like when I talk to you and when I sort of the Instagram thing, we're all guilty of putting up only the good stuff the majority of the time and making it look real, everything's perfect and peachy. But when I speak to you, it's very much like that you love what you're doing, and the downtime is the downtime, but you build your life into your work and your work into your life. Is that balance for you as well, just because of how much passion and drive you have in your space?
Yeah. And balance is a tricky word, it's trying to find that balance. But yes, that was a conversation that my wife and I had, and we talked about putting in the hours to be able to get to where you are now, et cetera. She climbed the corporate ladder for years, and then within the last few years has made the transition over into the fitness realm. Yeah. And it's a different way of thinking, and it's a different motive. But it's also, it's like what you're talking about. We have a lot of long hours, and it's difficult because we're away from our families all the time. But when we're here, we're making an impact on young people. We're making an impact on people's lives that, they'll leave. And it's one of those things that, it's what my wife said to me last night. They're always going to remember who introduced that to them. They're always going to remember that individual that made that big impact on them. And it may be something I never hear about, but it may be something that, years later, I'll get a random letter from a field hockey player that I worked with once or twice. And she says, you made the biggest impact on me, and I carry it through my daily life. And I can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And those are the kind of things that go that just keep the candle burning, right? And actually make it brighter and brighter and brighter is it's not. And we've had guests on here before that have iterated this, and you reiterate it, and you've been in it for so long and do such a great job with it. I'm sure those athletes are more than grateful for it, but it's not necessarily about the sets, reps, or movements that you prescribe. It's more about the relationships and that lasting impact, right? Wellness, or just that conversation, that little pick me up, or the fact that, I don't know, you picked up on, you're not moving too well today. Is everything all right? Like, let's go have a chat in the office. You know what I mean? And so those opportunities to impact, I think, that's a huge one, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big part of what you do. I was watching or keeping an eye on your Instagram, and you're doing some yoga, let's call it, like yoga stuff with your athletes. What's sort of your angle on that, or like where and when did that start filtering into your space? And then does it go beyond the physical practice? I know your wife does some of this stuff as well. So does it go beyond the physical practice and start integrating in some of the other components of yoga as a lifestyle as well?
So I'll be completely honest. When we first, the first team that I had any dealings with yoga with was volleyball. And it was one of the things where coaches always want to keep student athletes active. Even if it's an off day, they want them to do something, which I'm a firm believer the best form of recovery is movement. So when we first started doing it, we just got an instructor here on campus who is very capable, but it was just a job for that individual. They came in, taught yoga, and then, would head out. When I met my wife, one of the first things that she said, she was still in the corporate space. She said, I really feel like I could heal so many people if I started teaching. And we had a discussion, and she decided, she got a final push, and she decided to make a go of it. And so when I talked with our coach here, I was like, look, my wife does this. She was like, head coach was like, bring her on board. It has made such a tremendous impact. And the difference has been night and day with how these athletes react to her as a teacher. It's fantastic. And I'm going to well up here just thinking about it, because they're like,
awesome.
Yeah. I had a conversation with one of the girls the other day. She was like, she has such a good relationship with us. And it's so moving every single time, like across the board. Athletes are like, I'm able to sleep at night. The stress, anxiety that they go through as a student athlete, you throw COVID on top of it, and then wipe out their competitive season. I mean, it's a recipe for more anxiety and depression. And the impact that she's been able to have on them has just been tremendous. And so it's really eye-opening for me to see the difference in them that she has made through yoga.
Amazing. And an amazing collaborative approach in the house, and then out into the office and into the space, and making it work. And I think those things are
just real quick on that. It was, I've got the grease board behind me, and we're having endless Zoom meetings. And my daughter is a freshman here at VCU, and works at the fueling station. And she had come in and drew a smiley face on the board and said, have a great day. And here I'm wiping it down, and I'm thinking it's surreal to me. I work with my wife. I work with my daughter, all here at the university. My son comes to work with me periodically, mostly because virtual school is not for him, and got to keep him in check.
Right.
But but having all of that together, it's really, really awesome.
Oh man, it's such an amazing story. And like reading through your bio at the start here, and knowing that this has been a long path. This isn't just happen overnight. You don't just, I don't want to say you earn the right to do all the things that you've done and you have access to, and having your family there and building that in. Balance is the wrong word that I used earlier. It's more of like that sliding scale of where you put your energy and your time, and what a beautiful place that you can do all of that in one. And those relationships, again, enhancing those relationships with the athletes. I've had an opportunity to be at a new space, and just building in some stuff to like allow athletes to really truly access themselves a little bit deeper than sets, reps, movement. Here's your scorecard here. Let's keep, I posted today about like ramping down instead of ramping up. Like we're constantly on this ramp, get ready for the next thing. When do we ever pause and say, like, let's get ready for right now? Let's be right now, because those are the moments, right?
Yeah.
And I think you've done a nice job just in the social media stuff I saw, and then in talking to you, of really identifying that. And that's been sort of, has it always been there since like the late 90s when you joined? Has this sort of been transitional for you as well? Like a little bit of an opening up in your space?
No, it's definitely opening up and changing, especially I would say the last 2.5 years is being over sports medicine and having so many different people involved in the process, getting to know them on a deeper level and what makes them tick and so forth. And it's completely different. And then having my wife involved with it is a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Oh, that's great, man. I don't even think I realized that she was the one doing it with your athletes, but now in hearing that, it just, wow, that's amazing. It's just so, I don't know. You get that dream position, you get that's great, man. And I'm sure the athletes feel that as well. Like just in terms of like, that's a collaborative approach, and that's an approach it's lifestyle. It's not like you go to work and then check out. And so having that, and I'm going to bias this on my own opinions, but having that external person coming in and then just going away and just being that sort of drop-in instructor, it still holds weight, but I think this holds a whole lot more. You're supporting everything that you stand for in terms of impact with the athletes by embedding this stuff. And wow, kudos to you for building everything that you've built there and all the things that you continue to do, man. I am grateful for you carving the time out today to do this. I am indebted to you for the phone calls we've had, the time we've been able to spend together on the phone and kind of pairing this thing together. You're an inspiration on a lot of levels. You're a resource on a lot of levels. And I look forward to sort of growing this friendship and this connection with you. I'm not a big public guy, but here we are. Now we're public, and here I am. I really am, man. I'm grateful for you, and I really appreciate the role you're having in my current life. And I'll say thank you on the behalf of everybody who listens into this thing as well.
Thank you, brother. It's a two-way street.
I appreciate that, man. Let's switch gears a little bit before I start welling up. You got some crazy stuff going on. You're squatting a whole bunch of weight in the gym, and then you got surgery tomorrow. And the reason that I want to touch on this is because in the strength space, I think it's so crucial that you understand, or we all understand as strength coaches, the medical component of things, the anatomy, the physiology, what's going to happen in a surgery and all these kinds of things. Are you okay just discussing kind of like what, okay, absolutely. Yes. So you're having shoulder surgery and it's a tenodesis, right? So you want to walk us through that? Maybe you walk us through what's coming on, and then we can go down whatever rabbit hole we choose.
Yeah. So I give you a little bit of the long version. I've had some neck issues. Unbeknownst to me, 3 years ago, I had some neck issues that caused my pec to shut down and bicep to shut down. Okay. And in the process of coming back, my, it's kind of, I equate it to one of the things I've said for a long time is I'm not great on the medical terminology always, but I can explain things to someone who barely has a high school education as to what's happening in a way that they can understand it. So my understanding of what happened with my pec was, basically the nerve was sending a signaling, and I get a kink in the hose, and it didn't send a signal. And then all of a sudden the hose let on. Well, I had some atrophy in there, and then my pec ruptured. So I had my pec surgically repaired. Then we found out I had the neck issues. So we're working on that. That's a more difficult one and more involved, but I believe pec tightening up had some issues with bicep tendonitis that grew into tenosynovitis. And then during quarantine, I was walking up the steps with about three 18 packs of eggs and tripped and fell on my shoulder. And so there's a long ways split in the bicep tendon. So the tenodesis, they're going to remove it from the glenoid and tack it down on my humerus or my upper arm bone. And hopefully that'll reduce the irritation in there. I've also torn the long head of the other bicep. So if the surgery doesn't, if I overdo the rehab, then I'll have matching biceps.
There you go. Like that bodybuilding world, you just work for symmetry at that point.
Right, exactly. But
Nice.
I think one of the things that has helped me along the way is this will be surgery number 9.
Wow.
And I'm not advising anybody to go the route that I've gone. However, having been through injuries, come back from injuries, and pretty devastating injuries, that I've got a good understanding of what it takes, the mentality that you need to have going into it. My pec repair was probably the most invasive surgery, but it was the best recovery because I've been through so many before.
Right.
And I just had a much better mentality going into it. And so, but that was one of the things when I first started working with baseball, that was one of the things I had the start of all my injuries were shoulder issues. So I had a pretty good understanding of shoulders. And so, in the States, Eric Cressy is a big name, and I'm not acquainted myself to Eric Cressy, but he had a similar path. He had shoulder issues because of tennis and then got involved in the baseball community. Same sort of thing here. But it's knowing and being able to give those words of encouragement to an athlete. Hey, the day after surgery, make sure you stay on your medication, because the first day is going to be the worst, but just know it's going to get better after that.
Yep.
And you're going to be back in no time. And they're like, oh, back in no time, whatever. I just ruptured my Achilles. Well, I've seen people come back, and you're going to come back from this as well.
Yeah, and I think those are all amazing points when we talk about surgery from the recovery standpoint, from the understanding of what's going to happen and how things may go, and knowing that there are protocols and timelines. But there's no straight path from incision to return to play and beyond. However, like that front loading piece in terms of education, so that you understand all aspects, is massive for athletes. And I think again that, like you touched on, is finding a way to make that manageable material. I'm guilty of over talking and then like over medicalizing at times. And that's not, I've identified that and trying to scale that back and sort of use, I don't want to say simpler, but more understandable terms if somebody doesn't understand the medical side of things. And then you talk about like empathy and again, the educational piece, and all of these things make for the artistic side of what you do. And I don't think that can be stated enough, because science will always act, my opinion, also maybe fact, I don't know, but like will always act to disprove things along the way. And one of the things
I'm glad my wife is listening to this, because it's been an issue between the two of us. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It'll prove some things, but it'll also disprove some things along the way. And the art side of things is how we deliver information, right? And what movements are for what people. And I just spent a little bit of time doing an evaluation just before I came on here with you, and we're looking at the source versus the symptoms, right? And you talk about like the neck issue was found after surgery. Surgery fixes tissue for the most part, but doesn't necessarily fix the issue. And so then we got to go back and find the issue. So it's a good lesson for all of us to sort of not necessarily chase around the symptoms all the time. There's definitely a time and place, but sourcing that out. And I think you found your way, and not to say that it was done wrong. I think obviously you got to follow the path that you need to follow, but you begin to understand that whole picture. You begin to understand the shoulder a whole lot better. You begin to understand that whole athlete, not just athlete X has injury A, right? And you start to understand like there's a whole lot more to it. And man, I'd love to sit in on COVID, but I'd love to get in your gym space and watch you teach and interact with some of the athletes, and maybe in the future, who knows, we can venture down some of those paths
for sure.
What about COVID for you with the team there? And then let's shift gears and do some other stuff with that. But like with your team, the sports medicine team, sports performance team at Virginia Commonwealth. Again, this is session 48, First Star Let's Chat with Tim Kontos from Virginia Commonwealth University. Where has that led for you guys? Do you meet more regularly because of Zoom? Are you still in the buildings? I know things are a little bit different on your side in the US and in Virginia where you are compared to where we are. Where has that left you guys? No seasons at times, but your interaction as a team, has that enhanced things, changed things, or status quo?
Definitely changed things. It's the workouts are, kind of nuts and bolts. The workouts are shorter. Everybody's wearing masks. We do our best to social distance, but as our sports medicine team has advised us, if you're wearing a mask, you don't need to social distance as much.
Right.
So that being said, but the amount of time in the weight room is less because there's cleaning beforehand, cleaning afterwards. We try and limit the interaction from team to team,
Right.
Trying to keep everybody as much in a bubble as we can.
Yep.
So that has been particularly difficult because there's times after that. That's when we have the most interaction with our student athletes, when they hang out after the workout. We have recovery shakes here in the weight room. So they'll drink a recovery shake. We'll shoot the breeze and talk shop, but we've got to say, hey, you need to leave so I can sanitize.
Yeah.
And it's just, so for a team like volleyball, who were a fall sport, they come in with the expectation of playing their competition season. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, we're not going to do that. We might have, we're going to review it later on, but we're not going to put anything on the docket right now. That's been particularly difficult for them. And I can see the drive that they have had diminish. Coaches have done a great job of trying to keep things loose. Have scavenger hunts on days where practice would normally be scheduled, have inter squad competitions in our normal arena, under game conditions, trying to have them something to shoot for. But it does get to a point where it's like, all right, I'm sick of looking at you and you're sick of looking at me, and let's get on with it.
Yeah.
So,
It's an interesting navigation. It's a tough navigation. And I think all of the unknowns make it that much more difficult. Right. And so like preparing or periodizing or putting models in place when you don't have that target end goal, this becomes a little bit more, I guess, creative. And you just don't want to stray maybe too far from the foundational pieces.
yeah, fluid is the word that we like to use.
Fluidity, yeah.
Because
yeah.
you create a plan and then it could change at the moment's notice. And, for instance, our poor facility staff here, the recommendations were 1,000 people in our arena.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out how they were going to social distance all their fans, how they're going to distribute the tickets. And then the state came back and said, it's 250. So they took that, threw it in the trash, and redid it.
Yeah.
And it's, we don't have to do it on quite the same scale, but there is a lot of starts, stop, start,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to, because if you get a student athlete who's under normal circumstances would have a cold, now everything shuts down.
Right.
So it's a different time.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeps us on our toes, and yeah, fluid is the right word. And, learning how to pivot and do that well, and know that you're not going to, blow out your ACL when you do. You got to pivot,
right, yeah.
and you got to know how to pivot and know that it's going to be okay if and when you do. So finding that sort of solid surface to move from and to, and not interrupting that. How about personally? Have you, I don't know, have you picked up anything that you might not have with COVID? Like just, I don't know, playing the guitar, ukulele, I don't know, what anything new that you've picked up on in these times?
Our interaction is one of those things.
Nice.
And then just really trying to evaluate what I'm, I've always said, yeah, I'm passionate, but what is it that I'm passionate about? And it's making that impact with the student athletes. And would I be happy doing anything else? And the answer is no. Mm-hmm. And it's, it comes down to trying to, and this sounds very cliche and a lot of people say it, but not a lot of people live it, trying to make the best day, each day, the best day.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I have, people talk about long-term goals and things along those lines. And I've never done that. And I was like, am I doing something wrong here? But I realized that a lot of those things, you can set those goals, but so much of it is out of your control, whether it's in administration, the economy, somebody else's decision of what they want to do with the athletic department at the time. Mm-hmm. And our administration here now, and I'll kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent. Our administration here now gives us a tremendous amount of support. Right. In the last 10 years, I don't think I've ever been told no for anything, which is, I've been told, hey, it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's a fantastic feeling to have that. Yeah. But it wasn't always like that. And so one of the things that I tried to do was say, okay, in this workout, what are we going to do well? Well, we're going to take pride in it. We're going to do crisp, clean movements. We're not going to worry about what anybody else is saying about, well, that guy squats 500 pounds, but he's doing a quarter squat. No, we're going to go deep and we're going to take pride in it. And just trying to make the best of each moment, and then evaluating it afterwards and saying, what did I do well? What could I do better? And then the next day coming in and trying to attack that and do better with it.
Yeah, that reflective piece, and then like back to COVID is like that introspective again, like who am I? What am I? What's my why? I think those are some great reads, and like Simon Sinek's books has been a huge one, and a lot of people have
Mhm.
picked up, finding your why and then identifying it, and then what is your why, and then all those things. So that piece as an introspective piece, I think falls nicely into that yogic sort of mentality, yogic philosophy. I bias that because that's been sort of a focal area for me in the last few years, is really
Mhm.
shifting over to that and like tying that together. And then that reflective piece, right? Like looking at all the things that you just touched on. Does that theme carry over with your athletes as well? They get an opportunity to reflect with you guys as a staff in terms of like, I don't know, I don't want to say I like this workout or I don't like this work. You guys are the experts and they're listening to you. But is there some reflection with the athletes that you guys work on?
Yeah, that's something that we do quite often. Is we'll say at the end of the workout, we'll grade yourself. A B. Okay. Why a B? Well, I thought we talked a lot at the beginning of the workout, but it died off towards the end. Okay. What can we do to keep it up? And, evaluating that and then saying, and then reminder the next workout, remember, we got a B last time. What should we set as a goal today? So putting it into the student athlete's hands and saying, this is, you graded yourself. I would agree with your grade, but you graded yourself. You set the standard of what we're going to try and achieve today. So let's achieve that.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
then if we don't achieve it, why or why not?
Nice. No, beautiful. And that sort of empowerment piece, right? Put it in their hands. You give them the
Yes.
tools and let them work with it, right? And they got to
Mhm.
learn how to use those tools and then, yeah, I mean, and walk away. And this is where it is. This is where impact lies for me. And in terms of, listening to you speak and reinforcing some of the things that I feel like I'm trying to truly live with the athletes and the human beings, practitioners, other relationships, like trying to lead this stuff outward. Shift that reliance. Reliance is okay. Shift that dependence away from us as practitioners,
Mhm.
and make it, a codependency to start and then an independency to finish, right? And then, your athlete walks away and they'll send that letter to you or to your coach or to your, the trainer or whoever, that help them understand themselves a little bit more, and that yoga piece as well. So really great stuff. What's on the docket for you? It's Thanksgiving weekend. That's a big thing, right? This weekend
Yep.
coming up for you guys. So
Mhm.
this is why we moved to an afternoon piece. This is a little day game versus typically I'm a Sunday nighter.
Yep.
This is nice. This is a nice little. It's still light outside, and I don't have to go to bed right away, which is great. What's it looking like there? Obviously, there's some things that you got to consider with COVID and those kind of things. Relaxing weekend, or are you in the office for Thanksgiving this year?
So I'll be under the knife tomorrow, and
Right.
then I'm going to be in great hands, both with the surgeon, my wife taking care of me afterwards, my family taking care of me afterwards.
Yep.
And then back at it on Monday. We've got our baseball team is going into our off-season mode. So we'll start hitting our squats heavy, our dumbbell presses heavy.
Mhm.
That's a particularly exciting time of year for me. So we'll hit a couple days before Thanksgiving. We'll load up on turkey, and then they'll come back. And of course, we've got restrictions with COVID. So if they go out of state, they have to self-quarantine for 2 days, get tested, and come back. But a lot of these guys know the value in this, and they're going to sacrifice their vacation time and come back and spend it in here and get after it. And it's one of my I'm not a big fire and brimstone guy, but the one time a year when I'll do give a big fiery speech is before squat day.
Yeah.
It's not probably, it's one of my favorite days of the year. So I have sights set on that, and hopefully they do as well too.
Yeah, nice. And so that, like touching on that, like the athletes, you've been there and you're a pillar of stability in this space. And the athletes change over. And then the science or the art or what's trendy or whatever. And I'm not saying you follow trends, but you stay and remain as that foundational piece. The athletes change. Is that kind of part of the excitement for you, and the passion is like, those interactions with a new wave of athletes and a new wave of athletes? And does that help you kind of stay on your toes and provide some longevity to your career?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the new faces, the new personalities, seeing the younger faces get older. And in 4 years, I'm not going to get too old, but get older, but more mature and more confident through
Right.
the stuff that we've done through here.
Yeah.
That's really, really exciting. And, it's also one of the big things is with the college calendar is you have Christmas break. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You have summer break. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And we work year round, but there's higher points, lower points as far as the volume and the intensity of the work that we're doing. And so that definitely provides longevity in my career. So
Sure.
it definitely keeps me young. I'll come home and say something to my wife's like, where did you hear that? I work around 18 to 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
Another part of our big break is my wife is competing in a powerlifting competition, her first full powerlifting competition, December 12th. So I'm coaching her on that. I'm excited to see her put all our hard work to work on the platform.
Nice. That's amazing, man. Congratulations. I wish her luck as well. I think she's listening in live right now. So Good luck with that. Good luck to you with the coaching and a lot of overlay at home too, which is great. Good stuff. And so for the athletes out there, I think if there are some athletes listening to this, or there's some therapists or strength coaches listening to this, I'd advise shifting this podcast over to them once it gets out there and let some athletes listen to this, because I haven't done a terrific job, but again, in the last few years, I've started to, and that's really thanking the athletes for everything that they do. You talked about it earlier on with the volleyball athletes as the example of sort of all the things that have been taken away, and they continue to be diligent and they continue to have so much on their shoulders. And being able to do that and create the space for us to have employment, right? And to have these interactions. So just a big time. I mean, you've said it in many different ways through this discussion and a lot of the times that we've talked in the past as well. This is just a thank you to them as much as it is to everybody else. It's amazing to be able to work with these people. And I'm sure you have some amazing ones there, all of them in their own light. And I hope I'm not it's overstepping, but it's a big thank you on my side.
Absolutely. I think too often, it gets lumped in as a job, but it's exactly that. It's a huge debt of gratitude to the student athletes coming in, working hard, and giving us this opportunity to do what we do and love it every single day. And so
awesome.
Thank you.
No, that's great, man. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for picking this up. And Tim, again, for being here, carving this into your day, especially the day before surgery. You could be doing a lot of things, but you're here sharing with us. And this is where it begins and ends with me right now. This is this platform and really taking this opportunity to connect some people who might not have been connected in the past, to connect with you and see where this thing will go and run. And I look forward to growing this thing with you as well, this relationship and these conversations. Again, session 48, First Star Let's Chat. Tim Kontos is our guest. He's the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Performance, Associate Athletics Director for Sports Performance and Student Athlete Wellness at Virginia Commonwealth University. Session 49 will go on the 29th of November. That's Dr. Lorianne Hines from York University up here in Toronto. She'll be on to close out November, and then we're moving into 50 sessions already. So again, very much appreciate everybody who's picking this up and listening to it. Keep sharing, keep caring, keep doing all the things. Tell your uncles, tell your aunts. Tim, we'll let you run, man. It's getting up on an hour, and I know you got a lot going on. So I'll wish you a happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and to all of our American friends out there listening. Wish you well, safe surgery, safe recovery, and just stay well in those times and that place down there. And I'll look forward to talking to you on the other side of the knife. All right.
All right. Yeah. And if anybody wants questions, anything about career path, things along those lines, tim.kontos@gmail.com. And I'm putting together a website right now, kontosstrength.com. I'll be offering online training programs, and if you want to get a glimpse of how the athletes train and what goes into it, reach out.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you throwing that out there. That's massive, because I know there's a lot of people up here that look south of the border for a lot of the literature and a lot of the things that are trendy, but also based in like high level experience and high quality coaching and interaction. And this, without a doubt, you'll have a bunch of Canadian emails coming your way. They should be in English. Some might be in French. I can find you an interpreter if you need to. And internationally, we've now gained some international status with some listeners overseas. And I hope that this continues to grow and spread as just, people like you giving your time and really, truly appreciate it. Session 48 brought to you by Mobility Tape, the only heat activated kinesiology tape on the market, and First Star Therapy. Visit us at firststartherapy.com. Membership is available for athletic therapists here in Canada. That'll allow you to open up the CEU quizzes on a weekly basis, provide a little bit more value beyond this conversation, but I'm not sure there is much value beyond this conversation. This is amazing, man. I really appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you so much.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving again. We'll talk soon. All right. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.